Thank you for joining. And my name is Sanket, and I'm blockchain engineer with Snapper Future Tech. Am I audible? You guys can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
So fine. So I'll start with the session. So today's session going to be on Fabric installation and build your first network, which is very basic. So if you guys have worked on or read about it, you must have known about build your first network or how to build. There are scripts written to get your network up and running. So in the previous two sessions, I have talked about the theory part, the concept. So if you might have attended it, then it will be very relatable to you guys when I run the scripts, or you will know the terminologies of that in of Fabric. So I hope, or you can see the session or the webinar on our YouTube channel. So I'll talk about that later, where the recordings are or where we put the recordings. So so today it's gonna be even in the last session I had told about the prerequisites which is required to run the Fabric network. So but again today I will show you the commands or show you why they are required to, what are the prerequisites, why, and everything. We'll talk about this today. So before starting the session, I'll just quickly start introduction about our company. And so about Snapper, it is the leading blockchain and innovation startup. So we have been featured in many of the magazines, tech magazines like CIO Blockchain, CIO Review, Deep Tech, uh, Hong Kong International Blockchain and Financial Association. We have been awarded by them as the best blockchain startup, the upcoming blockchain startup. Then we are a blockchain technology and innovation company since 2016. So it's been almost around 3 years. Among the most promising companies in blockchain technology for consecutive 2 years by CIO Review magazine. We are a product and solution. We are product-based company. We have solutions across healthcare, supply chain, BFSI, and e-governance. We offer multiple blockchain-based service using Fabric, Hyperledger, currently Hyperledger Fabric, but of course more frameworks also are being used to develop products, and Ethereum. So yeah, so Snapper is a part of NMTech Capital that is based in Houston. So NMTech is our parent company, which has multiple IT companies in their uh, under them. So there are multiple companies like SpadeWorks, which is into supply chain and data analytics or cloud computing, and multiple companies as you can see. And there are also engineering services like Premises and DK Corrosion, which Premises is in Pune or itself. It's a factory automation and system integration. And there is another DK Corrosion. Okay, so yeah, these are the magazines which we are featured in. And in these domains we work, we have built our POCs and supply chain, that is goods traceability, luxury goods authentication, and automotive supply chain. E-governance, maybe have vehicle tracking and property records or land records. In healthcare, we have a drug traceability and health record POC. And in BFSI, we have worked in insurance claims, loyalty rewards, certification, authentication, and crowdfunding platform. So recently, our certificate authentication and verification blockchain application has been used by Hyperledger Hackathon, which was conducted last month. So they have issued certificate using our platform. Yeah, so we have done that. And so our agenda for today is Fabric installation and build your first network. So I don't have any PPTs with me. So it's just hands-on. If you guys are in front of your laptops or you have Linux, I'm being specific Linux, or even if you are using Windows, they have enabled Linux subsystem something. You have to enable that command so you can run Linux command in your Windows. So I preferably you must use Linux if you want to work in Fabric. Okay. So no PPTs. I will just go on to practical as I had mentioned last in the last session. So yes, so in the last session I had specifically told what to download. So again, I'm going to tell you guys that you need to have curl. Okay, you need to download curl, which is to curl the git repositories, or you have to curl the docker images or binaries and everything there is a part of fabric. So you have to curl those, curl everything. So you need curl for that. Of course, Docker and Docker Compose. So in the conceptual part or the theory sessions, I had talked about running chain code into a Docker container. So we require Docker images to run Docker container. So peers and chain code run inside the Docker container. Okay, and we need Docker Compose because we have to up our network, or the network components or network environment is written in Docker Compose.yaml file. So we require Docker Compose for that. So Golang is required. So Golang is required basically because Fabric is self-written in Go, and we write chain code using Go. Okay, and we require Node.js and npm. Node.js because we can write smart contract using JavaScript. And if you are writing Java, if you can also write chain code in Java, so you need JDK for that. Yeah, and also you require Python 2.7. Okay, so by default, Ubuntu has, if you are using Ubuntu, then Python 3.3 I guess will be already installed, but you have to use Python 2.7. Okay, so are the prerequisite clear? Do you need time to? I mean, of course, I'm going to show you what are the commands to install that. Okay, so is the screen visible? The terminal visible to you guys?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so firstly, I downloaded curl. Okay, so the command for curl is sudo apt install curl. Sudo apt install curl. Okay. So this is the first command to install curl. Okay. Then we need to install Docker. So did you guys get it right? Why am I downloading this? Why do we need curl, Docker, Docker Compose, Go? You guys are clear with that, right?
I think you install them for prerequisite.
Yes, that's right. So curl is to curl the repositories. Then Docker is to run the peers and chain code, because in Fabric they are using container system. So we run each component in a different container. Okay, that is why Docker. So you use containerization in Fabric, right? So Docker Compose is to run the network, because all the network components and environments are in the Docker Compose.yaml file. Then we have Golang for Fabric, because Fabric is written in Go language. Okay, and chain code also can be written in Go. We require Node.js and npm to write chain code in JavaScript. We require JDK to write chain code in Java, and we require Python 2.7. Okay, so these are the reason why we require this prerequisite, because the requisites are required. Okay, so we have downloaded curl, right? So now we have downloaded Docker. So I mean, are you guys doing it with me, or you have, I mean, writing it down? Because this is going to be uploaded on our YouTube channel. So if you are doing it with me, then it's fine. You can watch it later as well. Okay. So after doing this, we need to download Docker Compose.
I think go ahead, Mister, and we will do later.
Okay.
If you keep the presentation somewhere, we can download it.
Yes. I mean, not you cannot download it. You can watch it on YouTube.
On YouTube?
On YouTube, yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
So
thank you.
I will share our YouTube channel and everything. So yeah, I will do that at the end of the session. Okay. So now after you have downloaded curl, you have downloaded Docker, you have installed Docker Compose, and now you need to download Go. So the command is sudo apt install golang hyphen go. So by doing this, you will download Go, and if you want to check, you need after downloading you have to see. So I have Go 1.14 version of Go running in my machine. All right. So we also require, as I said, Node. So I already have Node. So if you don't have and you do this, it will automatically show the command for downloading, installing Node. So that is why Linux is the best, because they will only tell you what is the command for that. So yes, we also require.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
So can we install Docker in Ubuntu 18.0?
Yeah. It's fine. 18.06.
Okay, sir.
Sorry, are you saying in Ubuntu version?
Yes, sir, Ubuntu.
18 point, yeah, you can use 18.04, right? 18.04 you are using.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, you can. This is 19.10. I recommend not to upgrade it to 19.10 because it is very slow. So I would suggest please stick to 18.04 or 18.10.
Okay,
So
sir.
yeah. Okay. So now we have all the prerequisites to run the network. Okay. So you have curl, we have Docker, we have Docker Compose, we have Go, we have Node, and npm. Okay, so that's it. So now we can download Fabric. So there is, I mentioned curl. So if you have gone through the Hyperledger, read the docs, the official documentation, they have given the scripts to run everything. So firstly, Fabric in Hyperledger Fabric, they have given some sample projects. Okay, so they are calling it Fabric sample. So I just told you what is it. So this is Fabric sample. Okay, so there are multiple projects in this. So there is a something called as balance transfer, something called as FabCar. So these are small projects. Okay, so you can try it, you can see it, run it, and you can test your own, I mean, application using these networks or how these applications are built. So, like for example, in balance transfer, there is a network and there is a SDK for it. So, if you build an application front end, so you can connect the Fabric network through this Fabric SDK. Okay, so this is provided by Fabric. So, but if you have your application and you have written your own APIs, you can use a Fabric network. So, this is what we're going to see in this session. Just the network part. Okay, what a network consists of. So, in the previous sessions, I had mentioned about some peers, how to build organizations, how to build a channel, how to install the chain code. So this was everything discussed in the previous webinar. So if you those previous webinars, you have to go. I mean, they are uploaded on the YouTube channel. Okay, but again, I'm going to repeat that webinar in the next week. I guess on the 2nd April. I mean, you can check it out on IndianBlockchainInstitute.com or just follow me on LinkedIn. Next week, I'm going to repeat that, and again we will go through, I mean, conceptual part. Okay, I might go on to deeper, I mean, like private database and site DB. So I will just modify those sessions and make it advanced. Okay, so this is very basic. Okay, so if you are just starting out, then this is good. Okay, so you see here multiple folders and multiple files in this. So far, any questions? Any questions so far? Before I go on to, I mean, deeper into these folders and scripts.
Yes, those steps you've done on Linux. Okay, I'm using Windows. Is it the same or
No,
there's?
it is different. These are Linux only.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, there is a Linux subsystem in Windows. So if you enable that, there is some, I mean, option to enable the Linux command. So I just forgot. So if I mean, if we get connected on LinkedIn, I can just share it with you, and you can try it out later.
Connect with what?
Connect with me on LinkedIn or any. You can mail me. I will tell you the steps to connect to the window. I mean, how to enable the Linux subsystem in Windows.
Okay.
Then you can use these
Appreciate.
commands. Okay.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? I mean, any conceptual questions you have so far? I mean, why are we doing this? Any questions? Or I should go ahead. So, okay. So in the last sessions, I had talked about what is channel artifacts. I talked about the tools we require to have certificates, membership service provider. I hope you guys are, I mean, read about it or know something about it. Okay. But if you can't understand, but you can see this, I mean, watch it till the end. And in the next week, I'm again going to take up the conceptual part. So that way you can relate it back that we had done this. Okay, so we can do that. So, but don't leave if you don't understand. You can see I'm just upping the network, making it running the network. Okay, so but you can again relate it to this part in the conceptual sessions. Okay, so yes, so firstly I had talked about the certificates. We require certificates to, I mean, do a transaction. Like there is a public key and private key. Okay, so for any transactions to be done on blockchain, we require public key and private key, right? So public key is available to everyone, like your name. Okay, and your private key is this, which is given to you by a certificate authority. Okay, so this is your private key. Okay. So there are, for every user or every peer, there is a public key and a private key. Okay. So yeah. So now we will see what is required to make the network up and running. So this is a script provided by Fabric people to make a network up and running. So you can see, you can read here that this script will orchestrate a sample end-to-end execution of Hyperledger Fabric network. So what do we require to run an end-to-end execution of Fabric network? So there are, if you are familiar with ordering service, there are multiple ordering services like Solo, Kafka, Raft. So I hope you guys are familiar with this. Then there is a certificate authority. Then there are organizations, and there are, under the organizations there are multiple peers. Okay, so yes, so there is something called as cryptogen, which is used to generate certificates. So in the last session, I had also talked about Fabric CA, which is the official Fabric certificate authority. So we have, this is used for just development purpose, and Fabric CA is used for production ready applications. Okay. So yeah, so there are multiple components in Fabric. So we will go through this script. Okay. So to run this script, we have to generate something. We'll see what do we generate. We have to up the network and we have to down the network. So only three things we can do with this network. Okay. So what to generate? Okay. So you see here, um, generate. Yes. So you see, firstly, we need to generate certificates. Okay, so as I mentioned, we use CryptoGen to generate certificates. Okay, it acts as a certificate authority of the network. Okay, then we need to generate the Genesis block. Okay, so I hope you guys know that every blockchain needs a first block, which is called as Genesis block. So if we want to start a blockchain network, we require a Genesis block for that. So we use orderer to generate a Genesis block because if you know the concept, orderer takes care of generating of blocks. Orderer has the blocks with them. So orderer creates the block and puts the transaction inside the block. So ordering is done, orderer, I mean, handles the block. So orderer is used to, I mean, generate the Genesis block. So there are, we can use Solo, we can use Kafka as ordering service, or we can use Raft. Okay. Then we have to create a channel. Okay, so for every,
Excuse me, sir.
yeah.
So ordering services is like consensus protocol.
Yes, it acts as a consensus. So it is a part of, it's a part of the consensus. Yes, but it is
Okay.
not the only consensus, because ordering, endorsing, and committing. So this collectively acts as a consensus mechanism in Fabric. Okay, so validation, if you know that validation is done by endorsers. After validation, it comes to ordering. Then orderer creates the block and does the broadcast the transaction, and then committer again validates the transaction and finally commits the block. So this whole process is consensus in Fabric. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So channel is the ledger between the organizations. Okay.
Excuse me, to be aligned with you, after you execute the code you showed us above, automatically those certificates and Genesis block and etc. Will generate it automatically.
Yes. So this is a script, right? So this script is used to generate the Genesis block. You see here this command or this command is used to generate the Genesis block.
Uh-huh. Okay, thank you.
So the configuration of this is given in another file. So I will show you that file. So you see this config.config.tx, which is where all the configuration of the network is given. So you see the details about orders, its certificates, the anchor peer of organization one. So peer particularly has two organizations and two peers under every organization. Okay, so there are two organizations and total 4 peers. So you see here the configuration is given. So you have to choose which orderer you want to use. So by default it is solo. And the script you can change it. So like here, 1 second. Where is this? Okay. So you see, you can change the profile name. So I'll show you the profile. So if you want to generate ordering as a solo orderer, so this profile is used. If you want to generate orderer using, for Raft, if you want to use your ordering service as Raft, you have to use profile as this because Raft has multiple orderers. Solo has only one orderer. Okay. So this is the configuration file for every network. Okay. So Raft is mostly used nowadays because Raft is viable and feasible and easy to use. So that is why Raft is used. You cannot use Solo for production because if one orderer goes down, then your whole network will be, of no use. So we have to use Raft or Kafka, which uses multiple orderers or requires multiple orderers to order the blocks. Okay. So this is the configuration file to generate Genesis, to generate channel, and everything. Every configuration is here in this file, config.tx.yaml. Okay, is it fine, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. And the question asked by something about endorsing and ordering. So you see, I'll explain the transaction flow of how a transaction flows in Fabric. Okay, that should answer your question. So firstly, a client application sends a transaction from his application, and then that transaction request or transaction proposal goes on to the peers or endorsing peers. So endorsing peers, what they do is they endorse the transaction, meaning they sign the transaction. So which I was talking about the private key, they sign the transaction with the private key. Okay, and validates the transaction, and the transaction again goes back to the client application. Okay, then the transaction is executed, and again the transaction comes back to the orderer. That transaction is put inside the blocks by the orderer, and the orderer broadcasts the block to the every peer in the network. Okay, and then it is committed by every peer. Every peer is a committer, but not every peer is an endorser. So we have to assign some endorsers and define an endorsing policy. So there is something called as endorsement policy, defining who is going to validate the transaction. So endorsers validate the transaction, that means signs the transaction, and ordering just orders the block or puts the transaction, creates the block, putting the transaction inside the block and broadcasting to the committing peers. Is it clear?
So, So signing of the transaction will be done by the one making the transaction.
For making the transaction,
Like I am a peer and I will make a transaction, so I will sign it.
but how are you making a transaction? If the request has to come from the application, no? The client or the user will send some request or proposal to the peer in the network. Then only the peer can sign or validate the transaction.
Yes.
No, is it? I mean, it's not clear. Then you can ask.
Yes, actually it's not clear, sir. Like,
I mean, what is actually the doubt? I mean, I do not get it.
so you said endorser signing the transactions.
Yes.
So I like every peer is making a transaction. Right? Like if he wants to update anything, so every peer is making a transaction.
I am not getting what is making a transaction.
Like updating any file or anything in the blockchain.
The committers update the blockchain, or they are updating the blockchain, or committing it,
Yes.
or updating the information in the blockchain. But
Yes.
what is making the transaction? I'm not getting it.
It's actually updating that committer part in yours.
So committing is a part of endorsing. Consensus, but endorsing, that means signing. So see, are you familiar with how Bitcoin works or in Ethereum?
Yes, I.
So how does it work in Ethereum? So if you propose a transaction has come to you, what do you do? What is the first step that is taken by a node when they get a transaction?
So I can't. I sign it. Accept the
So
transaction.
that is what it is doing.
Yes.
That is the first step, right? So it is just called as endorsing here, and the roles are divided. The sequence is same, but the roles are divided. It is done parallelly. That is why
Okay,
it
sir.
is faster than Ethereum. It is scalable.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So if you need to discuss it, we can discuss it later. I don't want to deviate this topic to that discussion. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So we can discuss it later.
Okay, sir.
So yes, so to generate Genesis block, there are different profiles. If you want to generate Genesis block using Solo, you will use this profile. You can name it anything. So it is reconfigurable. Whatever you want to give naming conventions, you give. Okay, but whenever you are writing a script or giving that command, so you have to make sure that you give a right name. I mean, correct name. Whatever you have described or given it in this config.txt file, you have to give it in here. Okay, so you have to make sure that it is correct. So before that, this is the configuration of the network. But before that, you have to create your organizations, and you have to define the number of peers which will be included in your network, right? So for that, there is cryptoconfig.yml. Okay. So in here, you need to define how many orders are going to be there. So I'm using Raft. So that is why I have given multiple orders. Okay. I have only two organizations. So there is the organization one, which has two peers. This count is of peers. Okay. There are two peers of organization one. And there is another organization called organization 2, which also has two peers in it. Okay, so this is how we configure the organization. And after running this, and to run this, there is a script which I had shown you using cryptogen. So using cryptogen, you see, we generate those certificate for those organization and the subsequent peers. Okay, so after running the first command, you see this folder, you create certificate for order and peer. So orders, I have 5 orders, right? So every order has its own certificate. You see, and likewise, every peer will have uh, its own certificates. So you see, organization one has 2 peers. So peer will also have certificates. Okay. So firstly, you need to generate this with the help of this script. okay, using CryptoGen. So as I mentioned, this CryptoGen is for development only, and if for production, you need to use Fabric CA or any other third-party tool like OpenSSL. Okay, anything you can use to generate certificates. Okay. Secondly, we have to generate Genesis file. I had shown you the profile.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The CryptoGen means the file contain all things related to the peers.
No. It just creates the certificates. It is a script. It is a binary tool. It's a pre-generated tool by Fabric. I show you the tool. So you see here, it is a tool just to create the certificate. It does not include any information about the peers, but it generates certificate for every peer. Configured to config.yml.
Yeah. The CryptoGen means who's responsible tool to generate a certificate for each peer.
That is true. It is right. Yes.
Thank you.
As I mentioned, it is for development.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
So can you explain the purpose of certificates? Like, why do we need to generate certificates?
So
Like Active Directory.
yeah, so certificate is basically it's an identity for each peer. It is like we are giving a permission or license to be a part of that network. Okay, it is permission network, please understand. So it is not
Yes.
public. So I have to know the participants of the network. So in my organization, if I want to add you to my network, if you are newly joined in my company and I want to add you to the blockchain network, I have to give you some kind of identity or license to join the network. So this license or identity is just represented in the sense of certificates. As I mentioned, it is a private key. So there are multiple certificates for that, like TLS and everything, because the communication is using TLS. It is TLS enabled, right? You understand that what is TLS?
Yes, sir.
Communication. So all these certificates are required for communication and for the entry into the network. So that is why certificate represents your identity on the network. Okay, which is
Okay, sir.
handled by the administrator. You will have the private key, but your whole certificate will be handled by the administrator because it is a permission. If you leave the organization, then I'll have to, if I'm the administrator, I'll have to revoke the certificate from you and then allot it to the any other next employee. Okay. So this is how certificate issuing and revoking works.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we know that three types we can generate Genesis block. We can use Solo, we can use Kafka, we can use Raft. Okay, so in these three ways we can generate Genesis. So after Genesis, we need to create a channel. Okay, so every peer needs to be a part of that channel. So channel is just a ledger. Okay, that means all your transactions are passing through this channel. So to create a channel between the two organizations, we are using this command, okay, or this script in this script. Okay. So after creating a channel, we need to upgrade the anchor peers. So anchor peers are basically responsible to communicate between the two organizations. So you see, we have organization one at one point and organization two at another point. In between, there is a channel. So to communicate between these two organizations, anchor peer plays a role of the communicator. So they are like a leader peers. So whenever the transaction wants to, I mean, transaction comes and they want to each other, then they are passed through the anchor peers. Okay. So if it is complicated and you are not getting it, it is because concepts are, I mean, it's very difficult to understand the concept because my focus today was just to run the script and show it. But if you are not getting the concept, please, I mean, in the next 2nd April, in the next week, I'm going to take up again this concept, so you guys can join there and we can in depth discuss the concept and fabric. Okay. So you just see how to run a script for now in detail. I mean, the concept, if you have any questions about why this anchor peer or why it is called anchor peer and why it is used, why it is updated. So all these questions will be answered in the concept or theory session. Okay? So, so now you know that we require Genesis block, we require channel, we require certificates to get our network up and running. Okay. So I will just show you how we can, how we can run this script. So as I mentioned that difn.sh is a script, we can generate the certificate and then we need to up the network. So I guess I already have a running network. You see, it's exited for now. So you see, I already had these many uh, containers. So you see, this is a container. So this is a container for one peer of one organization. So this is how I named it. Okay. So this is some other project. So I'll just clear this. Okay, it will take time to generate to get the network up and running. So by the time, if you guys have any questions, you can answer. You can ask.
I want to know what type of data or about the anchor peer. As you said, the anchor peer will be responsible to communicate between two organizations,
Yes.
right? And due to our organization is connected to one channel.
Yes.
Okay, this channel has a ledger.
Yes.
Okay, and has a peers.
Yes.
Okay, if the organization one peer under organization one done a transaction, okay, then it goes to, as you know, the endorsement flow. Okay, then once be validated, it will be committed and then update the ledger.
Yeah. After validation, it will order.
Yeah, order. Then the order peer will
Committed.
declare this transaction for all peers in the network.
That's right.
Okay, that means if the organization one done this transaction, as we said, then it should be declared to the organization two to be updated that I did a transaction from organization one.
Yeah, that's right. So whenever
And this process will be done by anchor peer.
yes, anchor peers of both the organizations. So when a transaction will come, it will go on to the anchor peers of both the organizations, and then they subsequently. Sorry.
When the anchor peer will start doing this after the transaction being committed.
No, the first process the transaction will pass through the anchor peer and then go on to the endorsing peers. Anchor peers are just receiving it; they are not doing anything.
When the anchor peer will receive the transaction.
When a client application or a client submits or sends the proposal request to the network to get the transaction updated on the blockchain.
After updated on a blockchain, anchor peer will receive the transaction, right?
No. So whenever a transaction proposal request has been sent, whenever I enter my data on the form and I click on submit, okay, that means I want to send that data on the blockchain, okay. So that data will go pass through the SDK, right?
Yes.
I have a middleware, okay. So it will pass through the SDK, and then from the SDK we can.
It will go to endorse peer.
To the anchor peer.
Anchor peer.
Yeah. So the anchor peer can then pass it to the endorsing peer. So there is you can design or in such a way that you can point out to which peer it will go to first. Okay. So there is a something called as a leader peer or leader node.
Beer.
So there is some deeper concept about where the transaction will go to first. Okay. So your
Uh-huh.
anchor peer can also be an endorser.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, but it is quite. I mean, I see you are confused, right?
A little bit and confused. I thought that the SDK will send the transaction to endorsement beer only.
Yes, yes. That see.
Through now what you add the information for me that the SDK will send the transaction to endorsement beer through anchor beer.
Yes, yes. It will go through an anchor pair, but your anchor pair can also be a endorsing pair, so that process can start there itself. So
Aha, يعني anchor beer can validate the transaction also.
yeah, he can sign as well.
Can also give a signature
Yes,
for this transaction.
that's true. That's true.
Okay, perfect. I get it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So I have a question. Can
Yeah.
I? Yeah. So can we send a transaction directly to an endorsing peer without passing through the anchor peer?
Yes, yes. Because it's just a terminology and the architecture is such a way that we need to have anchor pair. But as I said, our anchor pair can also be an endorsing pair. So that means it is going to the endorsing pair as well. I'm just saying that it is an anchor pair. Okay, you need not define an anchor pair to receive your transaction.
Okay. And I have read about that anchor peer are used to suppose two channels have to communicate with each other. So anchor peer can be used.
Yes, that is also there. If you have two channels, so far I was talking about one channel or one channel only. So
Okay.
you see, if there are two channels and your organization is part of that both channels, okay,
Yes, sir.
that anchor peer can also use to receive transaction from another channel. Okay, so you
Okay.
see, for example, there are three organizations. Okay, so there is org1, there is org2 having one channel. Okay,
Yes, sir.
and there is org3 and org1 having another channel, channel 2. Okay,
Yes, sir.
now org1 is part of both the channels. Okay, so anchor peer can be defined so that it is part of both the channels and receive and send transaction using that anchor peer. Okay, so that is why anchor peer is communicating between on both the channels.
Okay. So only anchor peer can do that. Normal peer cannot do that.
No. That is why anchor peer is defined if there are multiple channels in the network.
Yes, sir.
So it is, yeah. So that depends on how you configure I mean, your network is. So mostly to save time, we use, I mean, only one channel and use a private data concept. Or if, I mean, requires multiple configurations I mean, it's very complex to create multiple channels. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So it is ideal to have, if you want to keep your data private, have a private database or side DB. But if there is no chance, then we have to create multiple channels for privacy.
Okay. Okay,
So
sir.
now I guess my network is clear. So firstly, as I said, I need to generate the certificates, my Genesis, create a channel file, and update anchor pairs of both the organizations. So you see, uh, two organizations are created, each having two peers. Okay, I will show you the two peers. Now it is not here. So that we have a Genesis block. So I have created it with just a solo. So if you want to create a raft ordering service, you have to change the profile. Okay, you have to change the profile to sample raft. Something is there, right? There is the another profile. This one. If you want to create a raft order, you have to use this profile. So now we have channel as well. So the channel is my channel. This is channel.tx file. It's created a channel. It will store the ledger. Okay, and we have anchor peer updated. Okay, that's fine. Okay. So now we can up the channel, create the network. Okay, get our network started. What do you mean by network getting started? So we need to install the chain code, we need to instantiate the chain code, and we can query the chain code. Okay, you will see what is happening here.
Instantiated what?
Instantiating the chain code, that means starting the chain code.
Okay. Starting a network up means that instantiate the chain code, right?
Yeah, initializing the chain code.
Okay,
Code.
chain code. I know the chain code is a logic of your business inside it, right? And the transaction, if you want to do any transaction, you will call the chain code, okay,
Yeah,
by the chain code ID.
that's right. Chain code ID, chain code name, whatever. I mean,
Yes, but my
it
question is, I didn't see you add the logic of or the code for the chain code.
okay. You want to see the chain code? Okay, I did not show it. Okay, I will show it what a chain code looks like. Okay, I'll come back to that.
Okay, appreciate. Thank
So you see here, this network is starting. Okay, so multiple containers have been created. So there is something called as CLI. So what is CLI? Command line. Okay, command line interface. So whenever after starting a network, if you want to update something or join a peer to that existing channel, we can do that using a command line interface. Okay, that container is also being given. Then we have peer container of organization one, peer container of organization 2. So there are two peers each organization, peer 0, peer 1, peer 1 of ORG2, and peer 0 of ORG2. And as we have used solo ordering service, we have one order with us. Okay. So now network is starting. So as I said, each peer is joining the channel. So you see peer 0 of ORG1 is joining, peer 0, peer 1 of ORG1, peer 0 of ORG2, peer 1 of ORG2. Then you see here chain code is being getting installed on every on peer. Okay. So every peer may not have chain code installed on it. Okay. So basically endorsing peers needs to have chain code installed on it, because whenever a transaction comes, it comes to the endorsing peer, right? They have to validate it, sign it, check the chain code logic. So it has to be installed on an endorsing peer, but may not be installed on every other peer rather than endorsing. So a committer may not have the chain code installed on it. So by the time it gets, complete, I will show you the chain code. You see, chain code is installed on two peers, peer 0 of RG1, peer 0 of RG2. Those are the endorsing peers of those organizations. Okay. And the chain code is getting instantiated, that means initialized with this argument C. So the blockchain or the network has initialized with A is equal to 100 and B is equal to 200. So this is a sample chain code, the sample balance transfer logic, I guess. You have to transfer the balance. So you see, after instantiating, we have initialized the A with 100 and B with 200. Okay, and this is the endorsement policy which I was talking about. So endorsement policy is where which peer is going to sign. So in this peer 0 of ORG1, that is here, which is where the chain code is installed, is involved in signing, and also peer 0 of ORG2, where the chain code is installed, is also part of endorsement. So endorsement policy is signing the transaction. So the peers of these two organizations has to sign it. They have no choice. So it is also, you can write in such a way that you can use or. for that. So if you want only one organization or one peer to sign it, you can write org1, right? Instead of and, you can write or and write this. So either of the peer will sign the transaction. So this is how you can play with the endorsement policy. Okay. So you see here, this with this A is equal to 100, B is equal to 200. He queried A and got this result. Okay, so querying is also being done here.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
I didn't get the A100.
yeah. So I have started my chain code with this value. So in the code or in the logic, I have started. So it is a sample chain code of balance transfer. So you see, account A has 100 rupees, $100, let's say, and account B has $200. So these are just variables, and they are initialized.
Okay.
Like any other
Okay.
logic, I will show you the chain code. So chain code is here. Okay. So you have chain code in Go, you have chain code in Java, you have chain code in Node. Okay. So that is why I mentioned. So you need to have JDK if you are running in Java, you need to have Go if you are running in Go, or you need to have Node.js if you want to run your chain code in Node. So, but I will show you in Go. Okay. Yeah. This is the chain code written in Go. Okay. So you see it. So these are the functions used. Okay. Init, that is initialization. Here. Okay. So but when I run the script or when I run this command using command, okay, that is where I'm initializing the values to A and B. Okay. So let's see.
So we have to mention somewhere that we are using Go chain code or Node or JavaScript chain code.
Yes. So when if you are using this script, okay, now it is ended. Okay.
Yes.
So if you are using this script, then -L, you can write Go, you can write Node, you can write Java. Okay. Now it is written in Go, Java, and Node. So if you write in multiple languages, then you can specify like this. Okay, you can give such a if folders are there, right? So that is how we come to know that you can write. Under that folder, it will take that chain code like this. Okay, you have to specify this folder name there. Okay, that's how you can change the language of chain code. Okay.
So by
So
default.
three functions. By default, it is Go.
Okay. Okay. Sir.
Most people, preferably they are using people use Golang. But if you are expertise in Java or Node.js, then of course you can write it in that language.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so we are done now. So we have initialized the chain code, we have installed chain code, we have invoked chain code. Invoking means doing a transaction. You see here in this script of invoking a transaction. Okay, so invoke in the transaction. So we remember A has value of 100 and B has value of 200. Okay. So right. So I'm doing this transaction of transferring $10 from A to B. Okay, that is my transaction. That is how I'm invoking the transaction. Okay, I'm transferring A. A is having $100 and B is having $200. So now I'm transferring $10 to B. So I'll have to A, and then here I'm querying A again. So A will have $90 with it. Okay. So this is how we run the script. So this logic is written in chain code. You can check the chain code. You can check the commands here. They are very easy if you read the official document. But it is, I mean, very vast, and you have to read it again and again to understand what is happening. So, but that is what I tried explaining in this session. I mean, it's more than 1 hour. It's 1 hour, I guess. So, do you have any questions so far? Any questions can I
Uh,
answer?
yeah, sir, I have a question. Uh, yeah, I have read that Docker Compose, Hyperledger Composer is deprecated. So,
Yes.
so what
You
we
cannot use it now. It's gone.
so what we have to use instead in place alternative to that?
Okay, Composer ka alternative it is Convector.
Okay, we can use Convector.
Yeah. But I personally haven't used it because I've always been. When I started, I was using Composer, but after that, I've always been using Fabric Network. I'm not using any tool. See, Composer was a tool, right, to
Yes.
understand Fabric Network. So I recommend to use. I mean, to work with Fabric directly, not using any tool. But if you want to use, you can use a Convector as an alternate to Composer. Yes, Piyush, you can
Okay,
ask.
thank you, sir.
Piyush Sharma, you raised a hand. You can ask the question.
I have a question.
Okay, yeah.
Uh, what is the artificates exactly?
Artifacts.
Can you?
Okay. So artifacts is just a name given to that folder. So basically, artifacts is the combination of Genesis block, channel.txt file, and the anchor peers ka transaction and anchor peers ka file. Okay, it's a combination of just stored in that channel artifact. They are called channel artifacts.
Again, please, I didn't get it exactly.
Okay. There is no such logic. I mean, why they are called as artifacts though? But what should I say? I mean, the artifacts. I don't know why it is called artifacts though, but the artifacts consist of these files. So that's what I know. I don't know why it is called as artifacts.
Uh-huh. Can you go back please to that file to see again, please?
Yeah, sure. I did not show you this file. This is a separate
Yeah. I know. But I just want to know the files
So this file
inside.
structure, every network will have a different file structure. So this is, I mean, done in a different way. So this is what I had created. So I renamed the files and everything according to my network. Okay. So yeah. Any other questions? Uh, so if you don't have any questions, uh, you can just check out indianblockchaininstitute.com, and you will see further webinars, information about further webinars, and you can visit our YouTube channel, that is Indian Blockchain Institute on YouTube, and you can see the recorded webinars. So previously I had done webinars on Hyperledger Besu, then also these Fabric ones are there, but again I'm going to repeat it next week on 30th webinar of Fabric 2.0, and I'll be taking it on this Fabric concept. I'll be talking about Fabric version 1.4. Okay, so that is the LTS version, and this was 1.4.4. Okay, and if I had not shown you how did I get this fabric sample folder. This, so you need to curl the command. Okay, so there is curl. You can go to this official document of Hyperledger Fabric, read the docs. Okay, get started, install samples, binaries, and Docker. Okay, so you need to curl this command. So currently 1.4.6 is in use, but you can just copy this. Okay, then you can edit it. Okay, if you want 1.4.4, I recommend you to use 1.4.4 because 1.4.6 has some additional functionalities, and it may not work on your machine. So you use 1.4.4 or 1.4.2. Okay, so yeah, any other questions?
Can we have your email and the link for YouTube? Can you put it in the chat?
Yes, yes. So my email is sanket.raiturkar@snapafuturetech. My LinkedIn is Sanket Raiturkar. Okay. YouTube channel is Indian Blockchain Institute. Okay. Can you see? So you can mail me. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can go on to Indian Blockchain Institute. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. I really appreciated every single information you give us. I hope to see you again. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. So thank you. So guys, thank you so much for coming. I hope to see you next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, just a second.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Actually, I have one doubt. No, not from this topic.
Okay.
Can we integrate log monitoring in blockchain technologies?
Yes. Log monitoring. Yes.
Yes. Could you please
So you
help
can
me
use
out?
Prometheus and or Grafana to do that.
Sorry.
Have you heard about the tool called Prometheus and Grafana?
Grafana. Yeah.
Grafana, yeah, right.
Okay.
So you can integrate these third-party tools into Fabric network.
Okay. Could you please elaborate this thing? How to integrate?
Okay. So to integrate that, we have something this in this file, in this core.yml file, we need to you see, 1 second, I'll show you.
Yes.
Okay, so in here, okay, so you have to there is a configuration. Okay, there is in the document itself, there is there. I will show you in the document.
Okay.
Mm. Just give me 2 seconds, okay?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Okay. I hope this is what you are talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can just read it out, read this, okay? So you might understand this better. But this is what I had not read. Yeah. This is what I was talking about, right? Prometheus and this, they have changed this document. Okay? So please go through this. Okay, I had integrated Prometheus and Grafana.
Okay.
So if you don't get this, connect with me personally. and I'll help you out.
Okay. So Grafana is for dashboard, right? For
Yeah,
UI
it's a test.
interface. So what
And
about
if
the
you want to monitor the network, right?
Yes.
So you can use Hyperledger Explorer.
Okay.
So you need to integrate that. So again, it's a tool by Hyperledger.
Okay.
So how to integrate it and what to do, then we need to connect personally.
Okay. Yeah.
Or we will arrange one webinar again. Okay. About how I had done it. I mean, twice I had conducted it earlier. But
So
if
you've
you
done
want to know
already,
more, it's
log
not
on.
online though. But okay, so connect with me on LinkedIn, okay, or mail me. I will tell you how to.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Any other questions regarding any framework, any other than Fabric? You can also ask. I have worked in Besu, Indy, then Sawtooth. So if you have any questions, please connect with me on LinkedIn or mail me. Okay, I am on the Rocket Chat as well. So ID Sanket1211. Okay. So I guess that's it. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining, and I hope to see you next week. Monday, have Fabric 2.0. Okay. I just any questions?
Nothing
Last time. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.